welfares, and a checklist is prepared spreadsheet in detail for this purpose. The signage is most important, as I mentioned earlier, and this was developed in 7 languages. In the case of the new and ongoing project, we developed new workplace guidelines, which was done in consultation with our health and safety experts, IT colleagues, and security colleagues. As I mentioned in the previous slide, we have developed new workplace guidelines to adjust the existing offices and ongoing projects, which would be the requirement to take care of the wellness concerns raised by this pandemic. In the case of the next stage, we are piloting some projects taking into account these workplace guidelines developed. And in the third stage, we are working with our management to see what would be the impact of the workings and see how we can adjust and adapt to the fast changing environment. It is important to lay down the guiding principles for the new workplaces. Obviously, health and safety are the most important. You need to take cognizance of the home-based work, and that technology is something which we are now using to our fullest extent. We also needed to reevaluate the comforts and assumptions and protocols that we were working with so far, embrace the new challenges, and experiment boldly towards a new outcome, which deals with flexibility in work arrangements. All of this leads to a positive effect on the carbon footprint and climate change. And finally, we decided to adopt one standard for all our offices in the field and in HQ. As I mentioned earlier, we have had extensive dialogue with the industry expert to understand their best practices and adopt the same. We have seen that increased home-based work is considered extensively, including in financial sector institutions, tech companies like Google, and even IBM, who had earlier adopted home-based working, then shifted strategy as a back to office, and now again shifted to home-based works. We feel that office attendance is required to drive by collaboration and not necessarily on performing every individual's work. We also feel that in doing so, we could adopt what we are terming as safe unassigned seating approaches, or shall I say floating seating for various staff. In consultation with other departments within the World Bank Group and extensive dialogue within the corporate real estate team members, we have adopted the following recommendations. 6 feet safe physical distancing between every staff, the layout planning with zonings, which I'll explain in greater detail as we go along, and offset the demand for increased office space by standardizing office space, which is we have 8 feet by 8 feet, could be thereabouts for other organizations, and adopting safe unassigned seating for staff who are on home-based works for X or more days per week and who are traveling for X percentage of the work week. We decided to leverage the new project with material changes to upgrade the building systems, focusing on indoor air quality, finishes which are easy to maintain and keep clean, and touchless devices. As I mentioned earlier, we are piloting some projects with these new design guidelines and recommendations. The World Bank Group has decided to adopt the office reopening timeline in 4 tiers. Tier 4, when the office is completely closed. Tier 3, with a 10% cap on staff in the office. Tier 2, 25% cap. And Tier 1, with a 50% cap. The facilities actions for dealing with this COVID was in 3 stages. First one being reopening, second one adjust, and the third transform. In the case of the first one, reopening, it was implementation of the reopening guidelines which need to be completed prior to the reopening. In the second one, which is adjust, it comprises of changes to the existing workplaces. And the third one, transform, is design improvements to ongoing projects, which is the design guidelines that I spoke to you about earlier. For the reopening, perhaps the most important is communications to the staff, for which a video is prepared with simplified signage. For implementing of these guidelines, the facilities managers worked with the country officers, and for which we provided pre-assigned focal points. And as I mentioned earlier, a reopening checklist. Regional briefings were given to senior management at regular intervals, and there is an implementation team working with the facilities team for this purpose. In the case of the adjust sequence, this being especially important for open workstations, and we followed the usual checkerboard fashion, allowing 50% attendance and a tier 1 workforce rotation. In case of moving to tier 0, additional adjustments would be required, including widening the aisles, raising face-to-face panels, and in some cases even reconfiguring the furniture layout. In the case of transform, as I mentioned earlier, we developed design guidelines to address the multiple design trends which are unfolding and with an increased wellness concerns. I'll explain these in greater detail as we go forward. And of course, implementing these guidelines, we have to take into consideration the impact to schedule, cost, most important of which being the behavioral changes and requiring endorsement from the senior management for the changes. The next few slides are self-explanatory, and in the interest of time, I shall go through these quickly. Here we deal with the explanation of the social distancing protocol, communications, facility preparedness, and contracts and other services. Systems are explained in greater detail in this slide. Here are some examples of the physical distancing protocols and the signage developed by the World Bank Group. This slide shows the checkerboard fashion utilized in the conference rooms. This is the facilities checklist spreadsheet that I was talking about. Unfortunately, it is too small for you to see. These next set of slides shows the adjustments made in the open plan and other such situations. Here you can see the before and after of the add-on panels to provide safe physical distancing. This is adjustment made to the shared spaces and the cafeteria. This slide shows the responsibility matrix between the corporate real estate and the country office focal points, and also involvement of other units. The next two slides talk about the decision-making process adopted by the emergency management team. This slide shows how we tackle the various regions of the bank group. Here are the considerations laid down for transformation, which is namely home-based work, experiment boldly and radically, adapt and embrace with behavioral changes, health and safety requirement for the finishes, materials, contactless features, indoor air quality, agility and flexibility in planning, reconfiguration, cost effectiveness, and working with landlords. This slide talks about the guideline for transformation, again, principally working on social distancing, safe requirements. The next set of slides talks about the actions required to transform, namely the health and safety, space planning, dealing with conference and meeting rooms. Similarly, how to address the workspaces, cafeterias, and the ancillary functions in a office. This is again a continuation of the actions to transform. The same, please note about the cost and schedule, which is again an important factor in all cases. Now I'm going to talk about a test case to show you how we have implemented these transformation guidelines and actions in some of our projects. This is the floor plan for one of our projects. As you can see, it's been colored in three. The hot zone in pink, which is where the visitors and public are allowed. The warm zone, where only authorized visitors are allowed to enter, and which are primarily conference rooms and kept close to the entry points. And then the cold or cool zones, where only the WBG staff are allowed. This slide shows the segregation between staff and visitors. The green zone, as the warm zone, is where the authorized visitors and public conferences are there, and the staff zone is the cold zone. This slide explains the staff entry and exit discipline, starting from the awareness area, the waiting room, checking testing area, and an exit corridor in case they are not permitted to enter for any reason whatsoever and access is denied. The same thing for the visitors. Similar access protocol is followed for the visitors as well. This slide shows the staff circulation in the office, and you can see that we have drawn a 6-foot wide circle around each staff to show the safe physical distancing around them. There are one-way corridors which are 6 feet wide, and there are two-way corridors which are 12 feet wide. This is the concept of the safe unassigned seating, which I spoke about earlier, the one shaded blue. The staff, when they come in, they can go to their caddy and locker position, pick up their belongings, and pick up any seat that is available and has to be pre-booked on an app. This shows the diagram of the assigned seating, where staff are always going to be present at the offices, such as the support staff and the head of office, again with directional signage. And the offices, you can see, are all equal, approximately 8 feet square. So what is the impact of COVID-19 in this region? Firstly, the informal economy has been hard hit. The containment measures and the reverberations from the global recession has hit the many unorganized workers, self-employed, and micro enterprises, which have experienced a large drop in earnings. The poor have also suffered severely, and the informal workers in the middle of the income group distribution have all seen the greatest drop in earnings. Many of them are not covered by social insurance. The crisis actually lays bare the complicated structural problems in the informal sectors, which needed to be addressed to prevent the breakdown of social cohesion. Construction industry, we know, has a complex equation with unorganized workers. Today, in all governments, there's a tension between containing the disease, providing relief, and promoting recovery and growth for tomorrow. So what can we do? We need to reflect on the key takeaways. We need to share the lessons learned and foster sustainable change. We need to establish strong partnerships across all sectors and increase support to those who are exposed to these fragilities, the low and the middle income strata, and boost resilience. Again, construction, we know, is a huge driver to enable all of these. Here I have listed the construction positives, which is education reform, vocational training, adopting sustainability practices, using certified sustainable materials, support a resilient recovery, maintain good housekeeping and efficient waste management, and opportunity for cross-pollination. And with all of this, leapfrog into the next era. The World Bank Group has a large real estate portfolio, as I mentioned, in the headquarters and in the field. To deal with this, we have prepared the new design guidelines. And we feel that these guidelines can be emulated for offices worldwide with suitable modifications and also some other modifications for residential and commercial complexes as well. In the following slides, I am describing these design requirements. First, the corporate role requirements have been listed. Again, the safe and healthy workplace, sustainability principle, reevaluate the comforts, assumptions, and protocols, deal with flexibility in planning, flexible work arrangement, using technology, having a positive effect on the collective carbon footprint and climate change, and respond not only to the crisis today, but steps towards the future. The COVID mitigation measures, as I said, communication is the key. Health and safety is important. Zoning, hot, warm, cold, I've already described earlier. The space planning requirements are mentioned on this slide. Again, this is a repeat of what I mentioned earlier. These are the guidelines for workplaces and designing of the individual spaces, including the safe unassigned spaces. Here we talk about the individual spaces starting from the entrance lobby, the conference meeting room, ancillary spaces, and the storage facilities. This is for restrooms. Here we talk about the finishes for the floors, as I mentioned, which are easy to keep clean, the walling and the ceiling, including sound attenuation products. Signage we spoke about earlier, and the signage package developed by the World Bank Group. Indoor air quality we know is perhaps the most important, and this needs to be dealt with quite carefully with proper mitigation measures. Facilities management is perhaps the most important to ensure proper upkeep of any facility, and therefore due importance needs to be given to this requirement. Thank you.
Welcome to India Construction Week 2020 segment on Agro-Tech. भारत एक कृषि प्रधान देश है. In number terms, 65% of Indian population lives in rural India, which is technically defined as non-urban areas. We are talking about 88 crore people. 50% of India's workforce works directly in the agriculture. It also contributes 18% of the GDP. We are looking at a paradigm where the entire agriculture sector was controlled by a few forces. The entire history of this is that in APMC Act of 1903, introduced by the British, carried on even after independence. The act was designed to divert Indian raw materials to the mills of Manchester and other places and give us in India only the finished products. So we became consumers of the finished products rather than the manufacturers, which we were earlier, and we made some very good stuff, you know that. The new bills have removed the evils which in the act. In other words, the controls which the entire machinery of the government and allied entities had over the agro-tech segment. I mean, imagine for example, nowadays, something which is bought at 7 rupees, I'm talking about onions, is available to us at 70 rupees. And where does the money go? I mean, 7 rupees given to the farmer. So those ills are there, and if there are hitches, I'm sure we will find a way across them. ICW is designed basically to look at the current problems, current situation, find problems, and find solutions for the way forward, in which we need a lot of development. To do this, National Steering Group was formed under the chairmanship of Dr. Brahma Singh. He's a Padma Shri and he has many laurels. And who joined us, the young entrepreneurs in agriculture, plus a major player was URC Construction, a very big construction company. Their chairman will be also making a present because they have a vast interest in agriculture and have done a lot of mechanizations themselves. Now, ever since these three agri bills were introduced, CIDC started research on the implications. What we did was we did a lot of number crunching. What number crunching? All the construction which will be required in a mechanized agriculture industry and we found the numbers were really, really huge. Most likely they will far exceed even the existing conventional construction. The report will be given to you not very far from now. And what we do, we are talking about the staging posts, we are talking about silos and other storage spaces, we are talking about rural roads, we are talking about housing for the people who will be involved in the mechanization. We are even talking about absolutely ultra modern technology for monitoring the production, which is, for example, through drones. Welcome to this segment. You will find a lot of new things which are consonant with the future. Thank you, and please give us your feedback. Thank you.
मुझे पढ़ना है, मैं उसको खोल लेता हूँ.
रिकॉर्डिंग स्टार्ट हो गई, स्टार्ट कीजिए सर.
Greetings, friends from the globe. Myself, Professor Brahm Singh, Chairman, Professor Brahm Singh Horticulture Foundation, BSHF, New Delhi, India. Member Planning Board, Union Territory Ladakh, and Padam Shri awardee. Congratulate you, particularly the organizers of online international conference and exhibition, that is India Construction Week 2020 digital, with the theme of reviving construction industry in post-COVID world. As you know, the conference is jointly organized by Construction Industry Development Council, that is CIDC, and Indian Society for Trenchless Cultivation, Trenchless Technology. I wish grand success to the event. I am thankful to the organizers to provide me an opportunity to briefly put the views of steering committee on agrotechnology and infrastructure construction as its chairman. Allow me to explain agrotechnology, which means technological processes used in promoting and progressing agriculture to create an understanding of how processes, equipment, and structures are used with people, soil, plants, animals, and their products to sustain and maintain quality of life and to promote economic, aesthetic, and sound cultural values, mainly, if not exclusively, in rural areas. Friends, in India, we are aiming to become a $5 trillion economy by 2024 or 2025. To achieve it, the country needs to grow at 9% in real terms from 2020 to 2025. We are serious to be more than Atmanirbhar, that is self-reliant. To reboot the economy, the government of India has announced a package of rupees 20 lakh crores. We consider rural revitalization is potential area for becoming a $5 trillion economy, as well as Atmanirbhar Bharat, as the share of rural economy in GDP is 25 to 30%, which is substantial and needs to be helped to enhance its percentage. Rural sector in India is mainly agriculture and is major source of employment. Today, rural sector requires a transformative approach to be a better place to live and work. This is possible by using modern technology in agriculture, industry, and most importantly, to improve much needed infrastructure for it. Needless to emphasize that lack of infrastructure in rural sector is major lacunae in the desired progress of the sector. No technology or technologies could give desired result without appropriate infrastructure and facilities. In agriculture, we have received Atmanirbharta, that is self-sufficiency in food, due to green revolution technologies developed by world-class agriculture scientists, disseminated by extension services of the country, and practiced by receptive farmers. Despite all this, rural sector economy and environment have not improved but have become non-preferred sector to work and live with. This, according to me, is due to lack of required or suitable infrastructure such as availability of power, basic requirement for a profession. Power is inadequate in rural sector and not dependable also, making the people unwilling to work in villages. Due to this factor, people, as their financial condition improves, they move to urban or city areas to progress further. Then the another factor is lack of connectivity. Connectivity in terms of roads, rail, communication, electronic, etc. and dissemination of information, e-marketing, etc. are very poor and are not dependable in rural areas. Next one is lack of agro industries or value addition to the agro product or secondary agriculture. Due to the lack of power and connectivity, agro industries which have great potential to transform economy of rural sector are all there in the urban areas, affecting both adversely. Urban area also and the rural sector also. Rural sector is deprived of and urban sector is becoming polluted. Agro processing, pack houses, cold chain, cold storage, warehouses, and alike are not there in rural areas. This necessitates rural sector as agro produce raw material supplier. Agro produce raw material supplier only, not the value added products or finished products. Production of value added products in rural sector has numerous advantages both to the producers and consumers. I advocate creation of infrastructure to have rural agro-based economic zones with required facilities. Agriculture infrastructure fund creation by the present government is a welcome step. Agro-based ventures on the pattern of Amul and Safal, where infrastructure development has played key role in handling perishable commodities, would boost rural economy and rural sector. Farmers produce organizations are multiplying in the country. Provisioning of required infrastructure to these FPOs would boost their economic activity efficiency and output to the betterment of rural sector. In the past, many programs and projects under different names with similar approach have been tried to improve rural economy. I would like to mention the two whose objective match with that what I stated above. These two have impressed me a lot, and I think that with such objectives we can transform the rural economy. The first one is Pura, provision of urban amenities in rural areas. The concept given by my mentor and former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. It emphasizes for urban infrastructure and services to be developed in rural hubs to create economic opportunities there at par with the urban areas. These include better road network, education, health, drinking water, power, sanitation, and social safety net. In most of these, role of construction engineers can hardly be overemphasized. The second one is silage. The concept being promoted by Dr. Anil Kakodkar, the Padma Vibhushan awardee, former chief of Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Mumbai. The concept of a silage that incorporates the best of a city in a village. Whatever the best in the city, that should be available in the village. A village is a knowledge-based ecosystem for integrated education, research, technology development, and deployment, as well as capacity building in rural areas. The focus of research work at a village is on regional problems. Village people in the neighborhood for demonstration and deployment of relevant technologies through a number of advanced knowledge-based rural technology initiative. In brief, they can be called Akruti centers located in the neighborhood, and the village should thus become a center of innovation in rural areas to solve the problems of the region and disseminate the developed technologies as the region through Akruti centers. Akruti involves construction and creation of befitting infrastructure. In fact, what I said, both the programs are relevant and potential, provided infrastructure support is created or provided in rural sector. I'm happy that CIDC sees prospect for construction industry in the rural area also, though late, but better late than never. Time has come that we see now agriculture as an enterprise. I consider it only way to improve economy and environment in the rural areas are farmers' prosperity. Entrepreneurship is a must. For this, I emphasize on secondary agriculture concept, i.e., for example, addition of value to the agriculture produce locally in the villages. Here, I think construction agencies and agro industries both jointly help the rural sector. We need to create lot of infrastructure for these agriculture produces, and that is where both are concerned. Rural people should be the part of corporate, or they should become the corporate, or they should be executive and beneficiary from this exercise. Success in the venture would lead to better improve rural economy. Climate change, another problem, enforces adoption of protected cultivation, vertical farming, indoor farming, etc., which are all dependent mainly on certain type of infrastructure for production of crops and appropriate production technologies. The recently enacted Act for Agriculture Reforms envisages a paradigm shift in the way of Indian agriculture sector has performed till date, where the corporate sector shall have prominent role to play, whereas this shall open new opportunities of work for our construction industry to build a whole set of physical infrastructures. It would also open new avenue of employment for our youth, especially from rural sector. According to a report appeared in Financial Times dated 19 October 2020 by Dr. P.K. Joshi and Dr. Padi, following areas require concentration to revitalize rural sector. According to them, first one is promote a modern agriculture that is driven by technology and market. Technology and market. Number two, create infrastructure for rural industrialization by investment in post-harvest rural activities such as agro-processing, packaging, cold chains, cold storage, transport, and others. Develop agro-based special economic zones. Third one, a strong linkage between farm and non-farm sectors on the basis of just Amoon and the Safal I mentioned above. The role of micro, small, and micro enterprises will be very critical in developing rural industrialization. I endorse the views of Dr. Joshi and Dr. Padi. To conclude, in rural transformation, the role of urban linkages will be a key driver. The conference, I emphasize, should recommend development of a document for the Government of India on the subject involving agro sector or agro scientist and construction industry in the country, aiming for rural reconstruction and revitalization to boost rural economy and environment. Jai Hind.
Dear friends, I am C. Devarajan, Managing Director of URC Construction, and we are a long-standing construction company. Basically, I am from an agricultural family and we continue to do practice agricultural activities. Nowadays we say it is not anymore agriculture, it is going to be agri-business. There is a lot of value addition. There is not a lot of new practices we are learning from many countries across the world, and in every village of India a lot of youngsters who have been educated but they want to work in agricultural field. It's no more an activity which is not a proud or pride activity. I personally feel agriculture is one of the most important activity for the world and for human being. So saying that, how do we practice it, or how are we prepared to face the new situation and opportunity? As our country has visualized very early in the stages and built the Golden Quadrilateral National Highway, very importantly when it was initiated, Dear friends, I am C. Devarajan, Managing Director of URC Construction, and we are a long-standing construction company. Basically, I am from an agricultural family and we continue to do practice agricultural activities. Nowadays we say it is not anymore agriculture, it is going to be agri-business. There is a lot of value addition. There is not a lot of new practices we are learning from many countries across the world, and in every village of India a lot of youngsters who have been educated but they want to work in agricultural field. It's no more an activity which is not a proud or pride activity. I personally feel agriculture is one of the most important activity for the world and for human being. So saying that, how do we practice it, or how are we prepared to face the new situation and opportunity? As our country has visualized very early in the stages and built the Golden Quadrilateral National Highway, very importantly when it was initiated by our then Prime Minister Vajpayee, it was told that every village in India can easily be connected to a national highway with a distance of 25 kilometers. So if you are living in a village and there is a national highway, for you to reach in 25 kilometer away, then naturally you will have a feeling to connect with any of the market. Now after this new policy of agriculture, you can send all your products to anywhere in India, to any market. There is no restriction. So under this circumstance, how the construction industry and agricultural activity can go together. Agriculture is the most important and the larger job provider to all the Indians. Even today, more than 65 to 70% of our population depends on the agricultural activity, and even the other 35% are partially involved in agricultural activity. As a country, we have planned to give houses to everyone. We have planned to create social infrastructure like college, hospital and many other things. But now only we are all thinking about creating the right infrastructure for the agricultural activity. Like our former President Dr. Abdul Kalam said, the Pura scheme, providing the urban facilities at rural areas. So that is where we are now looking at. As construction industry, one statistic by some of our friends is saying that every year there is going to be a huge infrastructure which is going to be developed looking at agriculture industry as an opportunity, like the grain storage facilities like the warehousing facility, like the grading facility, or ripening of fruits and storage of fruits. There are so many things. If it is developed in the rural area, in every district, almost 650 districts are there in India, every district should become a vibrant, viable and very strong district, for which agriculture has to become strong. The agricultural sector now has developed the wherewithal to understand all these things. The rural youth, if they are encouraged to involve with this kind of intervention, they will definitely do a very good contribution to the development of our nation. We are talking about 5 trillion economy. We are talking about providing job opportunities and giving a better life to every individual. How can it happen? Definitely the urban cities alone cannot provide all these facilities. Like we are discussing about smart cities, all villages has to become smart village. Smart means the storage facility has to be smart, the harvesting methodology has to be smart, the other infrastructure which is created in the rural area should be world class, for which the construction industry definitely should understand this and develop the right methods, technologies, model of funding or financing these facilities and come out with different solutions. Always we should not look at the government for everything. It is in our hands to make it happen. As a company, we are creating a facility in the state of Punjab for the benefit of the village farmers to convert their straw from the paddy or from wheat into a biogas or methane gas. A German company is giving this effort as a pilot project. This is the first project in India. If it succeeds, there will be so many such facilities which is going to be created in all the paddy growing areas. Similarly, there can be methodologies to store the turmeric or to extract various inputs from every agricultural produce for medicinal use and other purposes. So these are all some of the coming opportunities in construction industry, like a software company making a civil engineer or a mechanical engineer or a chemical engineer or everybody to become a software professional to serve their domain in the field of construction or in any other field. We as construction professionals also should start understanding the needs of the agricultural industry and start creating facilities and start working towards this particular area to make India a better place to live and make India a very powerful nation. So friends, please understand, this is going to be a great opportunity in the years to come. More people can be made to stay in the villages if there are good facilities, if it is modern and if it uses all the modern technologies, then educated youth will remain in the village and become very strong or very comfortable and happy taking care of many things. This way we can reduce the burden on the urban cities. There are situations where many people without much of opportunity somehow try to lead a life in urban areas. This can be avoided by creating better and stronger villages. So now I urge every one of you to look at the opportunity in agriculture as an opportunity in the construction sector. Thank you.
Hello everyone. I am Prasanna with Habitat for Humanity. I'm pleased to be speaking to you all as part of India Construction Week. And on behalf of Habitat for Humanity, I welcome you all to the conference, which is happening virtual this time, and to this session where I'm going to talk about skilling needs of rural construction labor. Before I jump into the topic, I would really like to thank the organizers, CIDC and Indian Society for Branchless Technology, for giving me this opportunity to share some of the ideas and the work that we've been doing in the last couple of years. Let me just share my screen. As I said, I am with Habitat for Humanity, and within Habitat, we have a department called Terwilliger Center for Innovation in Shelter. And as part of the center, I lead the construction services and labor vertical. Habitat for Humanity is an international housing organization that's been working to improve housing conditions for people across the world. And over the last, since 1976, we have improved houses for 29 million plus people. But if you look at the global scenario of housing demand, there are more than 1.6 billion people living in inadequate shelter. To bridge that kind of a gap, the traditional approach of philanthropic fund helping families to build houses may not be sufficient. And that's why we set up Terwilliger Center for Innovation and Shelter, which is looking at market-based solutions to solve the housing needs. And the scenario is not very different in India. India has one of the largest housing deficits in the world, and we need 46 million houses by 2022. And most of this demand is expected to come from the low-income families. And these are families who are economically active. So these are your plumbers, Uber drivers, and people who are employed in farms. They are actively looking for solutions in the market, and they build their houses incrementally. And they depend on local construction labor, who is their go-to person for construction advice and building their homes. So that's why we are looking at construction labor as one of the key verticals in our program. How big is this segment? So are we aware that this is a huge segment? Because when we talk about construction labor, the image that comes to our mind is the workers working in real estate and commercial projects in cities. But this segment is huge. In fact, the construction employment boom that happened between 2000 and 2012 was also largely fueled by rural construction employment. And as per NSSO data and the analysis by EPW, it was found that there was widespread minor incremental house constructions that happened in rural areas during the time period, which contributed heavily to construction labor employment, contrary to public perception, which goes like the infrastructure boom and the service sector boom in urban areas, coupled with real estate demand that created more employment. But in reality, rural construction employment grew nearly 2.5 times that of urban construction employment, and they constitute roughly about 35 million workers. And if you look at these workers, 80 to 90% of them are working in rural peri-urban residential construction. I'm talking about small independent houses built by families, not high-rise apartments. So that's the kind of potential the market has. And enhancing their skills and service offerings can lead to significant improvements in housing quality. And not just that, it opens up market at the low-income segment for increased adoption of new products, materials, and technology. How do they build homes? What are the construction practices in this segment? And what are the norms and how skill is acquired by labor in this segment? So if you look at rural or peri-urban home construction, it is largely driven by local contractors who we call as mestris or rajmistris and their team of laborers, skilled, semi-skilled and casual laborers. And how are they hired by the customers? They're typically hired through referrals, through their friends, family and neighbors, and not through a verification of their skills or through certification process. So it's a very informal hiring process. And how do these people acquire skill? If you look at India, we have a strong artisanal tradition in construction, and people have traditionally been acquiring skills on the job by apprenticing under a senior, and occasionally they also get to work on commercial projects in the villages or bigger houses where they get to learn from architects and engineers who get involved in such projects. So that's how they've been building their knowledge and skill. And in our analysis, we spoke to, in the last couple of years, more than hundreds of households and construction workers in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Orissa, and we find that they possess adequate basic skills. So they don't need basic training, but their skill gaps are pretty different compared to what is taught. So they typically have gaps in terms of using new materials such as M-sand. Tamil Nadu, we saw a huge reluctance among labor to adopt to M-sand when river sand was banned. And they're also not quite aware of waterproofing and how it is applied. But these are new products which can make significant improvements to quality of housing. But we do see that there is a skill gap preventing labor from using that. The second important skill gap that we see is one of soft skills. In the labor-household relationship, we often see houses getting incomplete or people overspending their budget and people under-engineer or over-engineer the houses. This happens due to lack of communication. The contractors are not able to play the kind of an advisor consultant that he is expected to play by the household. And this also is because there is an information asymmetry. So they don't understand, there are myths about certain products and their uses. They don't have an opportunity to verify that. So, and finally, they lack design input. So how to site a house, how to build with proper ventilation. So those are some design related skill gaps that they have. Let's see how the construction skilling landscape has been working and how it tried to address some of these problems. Since 2015, the new skill development policy, so the push for construction skilling or skill development happens from the union government through NSDC and sector skill councils. And then there is a nodal agency in each state, a state skill development council or corporation. And the priority has largely been, job creation for youth. Which is centered around the short-term training program for 3 to 4 months. And they onboard a lot of private training providers in addition to some of the existing legacy training providers in the market. As I said, the focus was on youth skill development with the hope that, as more youth are skilled, we can create more employment and reap demographic dividend that India has. But in reality, it did not work as expected, at least in construction skilling. We saw that, there is a low aspiration for construction jobs among youth, so not many of them were turning up for skill development programs. And if you look at construction sector, most of the people who are employed in construction sector are people who drop out of school at the age of 14, 15, and they already start earning a decent amount of wage by the time they turn 18, when they are qualifying for a skill development program. So for them, it's an opportunity cost to sacrifice the wage and come and attend training program for 3 to 4 months. So that also prevented people from attending program. Eventually, what happened? The state skill corporations were not able to sort of meet the targets they set out to achieve, and a lot of new training providers were not able to mobilize people, train them, and even if they trained them, they were not able to find formal employment opportunities for these people. As a result, they were not able to make any return out of the investment they made for construction skilling, and eventually most of them dropped out. So only the legacy reputed training providers like L&T, CIDC, and some of the other training providers are surviving in this market. As I said, there is an entrenched informality in construction employment, be it in rural areas, urban areas. All hiring happens through referrals and a long contracting chain. Where people are hired not based on certification or skill, but through their networks. In parallel, if you look at some of the building material firms like cement, steel, or waterproofing companies, they were trying to reach out to the current workforce and see how they can improve their skills or information so that current workforce are becoming influencers to the end consumers so that they are able to increase their market penetration and sell their products. Even some of the building material firms tried skill development programs and they met with a similar fate in terms of all these barriers came in the way, but they are able to successfully run information sessions or marketing sessions with masons, plumbers, painters, where they try to market their products and also share some information about usage. So it's a good measure and it's been working across India. We found that not many construction workers find value from this. They see this as a marketing event and they attend this event mainly to please some of the dealers or hardware stores and not really taking away much value from this. So what can we learn from this? How can we marry some of these efforts has been our thinking. So we reimagine the landscape in such a way that some of these forces can come together for a greater effect. So we feel that moving away from short-term training, the skill development corporations can prioritize RPL program where they assess existing skills and provide some minor quick upskilling just to target the skill gaps these people have. They don't need basic training. And can the building material firms and the hardware stores take part in the skill development process so that we solve a couple of other problems? So we saw that training providers have difficulty in mobilizing and retaining people. Now we are not targeting youth, we are targeting current workforce. And hardware stores and building material firms have a network of construction workers, be it masons, plumbers, or painters. They can help in mobilizing them. And these building material firms are at the forefront of technology development. So they can provide the necessary content, upskilling, or training of trainers to the existing training providers so that the training providers have improved capacity to impart upskilling on what is needed in the market. And not just that, so we have construction welfare boards across the country who have a district presence, who have registered workers. Of course, more can be done there, who also have a fund that is allocated for partly towards skilling. So if these boards are also involved in the process, we can augment funding, we can also augment mobilization of resources, eventually leading to more skilled and certified workers in the market. However, that's not it, right? So this is still a supply side of things. So we also need to engage the demand side in the skill development initiatives. So what are consumers thinking? Are they benefiting from that? Is something that is needed. So only when there is a pull from the demand side, skill development and certification will gain its recognition and value. For that to happen, we largely need to have a good feedback system, a good reward and sanctioning system. So like your Ubers and urban clubs where workers are certified and rated. So if worker is doing well and rated, he gets more business. If he's rated poor, so he's not going to improve his business. So he's forced to get himself upskilled and get himself up to the market's requirements. However, this feedback mechanism and formalization of services has been lacking, which we think more market-based solutions need to come there. So this is the way we see it, and we are happy that we are working with CIDC and building material firm Ardex to try out a particular RPL Bridge program in Tamil Nadu under the aegis of Tamil Nadu Skill Development Corporation, and we look forward to sharing more results as the program gets implemented post. The program has been on hold because of COVID. We expect it to restart, and there is some good progress we have seen in that front by bringing a training provider and a material firm together. So what are the key takeaways if I have to summarize quickly? So the policy shift in skilling should prioritize RPL plus upskilling for construction firms, construction skilling. And we do see a huge opportunity and a win-win for both building material firms and training providers to collaborate. And this also offers an opportunity for building material firms to offer more embedded services through their retail network and increase their market penetration and sales and brand value. And most importantly, training providers also need to augment their capacity and focus on training methodology and training content that adds immediate value to the labor so that more people are willing to take part in the training and take away the benefits. Thank you. Given the short time, I try to keep it on the rural construction labor focus. I'd be very happy to answer any queries that you may have, and you can also email me if you're interested to explore some of these ideas further with us.
Welcome everyone to this session on training and skilling at ICW 2020. My name is Sunny Surlakar. I'm a civil engineer and a concrete technologist by profession, and also training is one of my passions. So which is why today I'm here to talk to you about modern technical training. So this is kind of a new model, new concept based on a practical approach that we have been developing over the past couple of years, and it leads kind of a new dimension in the skilling industry for professionals, especially in the construction industry. Construction is an industry that runs a little bit different. It's a much more physical industry, and the models can't solely be online or can't solely be on the field. So pretty much we have to find a good balance between the two, and that is what we are here to talk to you about. So when we talk about why modern technical training, so little bit we'll start off with the introduction to what we are talking about, why it's needed, what are the problems seen on the site, and so on. Then we'll talk a little bit about the model, about who will benefit, like who can attend or who can work in these kind of trainings. And then we'll show you some practical ideas for execution, and then finally conclude. So just introducing the concept to you, when this thought came about, like even for ICW 2020, like what are the problems? So basically, the thing always started off with why are we doing this? So when we talk about the modern technology in construction, so I mean that is where the problem pretty much starts off. Like the main issue is that a lot of these modern technologies are not finding their way onto the regular job site. For example, topics like modern concrete technology, say making self-compacting concretes, for example, how to use local materials more efficiently, how to make green, low CO2 footprint concrete, for example. Like all those kind of technologies are still not found mainstream applications today. Although the world is doing it, but in India, except for maybe the bigger projects, the regular mainstream construction is not yet seeing a lot of these technologies. Also, same areas and fields like waterproofing, repair and restoration, flooring. Like there are so many mysteries. There are so many thoughts, or there are so many doubts about waterproofing and repair and flooring and how to do it right. There are so many concepts. There are so many modern materials. There are so many issues over there. But these are not being addressed, I would say, in terms of field applications. Also, areas like construction management or material technology, the Internet of Things or BIM modeling. These are often things talked about only at conferences. But why are we not seeing much more mainstream adoption of these kind of technologies, especially in a post-COVID world? These kind of things really help make our construction better. They help make it faster. They help make it cheaper, and they really help to improve the skill level of the people associated with the project. So why are we not seeing this? Even specialty areas like arbitration contracts or design, it's going means it's not yet that widespread. I mean, the professionals are still a few and far in between. So there are some problems also for the adoption of modern technology, and these range right from like these topics are not covered adequately in academic syllabi. So even at the graduate level, not many students know or are fluent with these kind of ideas. They're not popular, of course, in mainstream technology because they're also coming through or permeating very slowly. But one of the key problems in this has been the reluctance to accept modern technology. That being said, also there is a minimal exposure to these kind of modern methods. And since people don't know about it, they're very reluctant to accept it at times. So also, say lack of codal provisions is what I would say is part of the problem, because we also work with BIS, but the codal provisions for new and modern methods are coming in. Of course, they're coming in, but they're coming in a lot slower. So the adoption over time, like from the time the code is made to the time it's adopted, is the time lag is pretty high. And because of this, like professionals such as graduates, designers, or site engineers, or even like at the supervisor or the labor level, then they're affected because a lot of them don't know how to deal with these new things. Another problem that normally comes up is that or say in the construction industry, we are not taking a look at what are the initial costs versus the life cycle costs. Oftentimes, people just ask, "Arey, kitna padta hai?" So, initial cost is often the basis for making long-term decisions too. But somewhere we have to kind of look into the life cycle costing of a lot of the modern technologies. So the outcome of the problem that since these technologies are not adopted on a mass level, the problem that come up is that the constructors don't understand modern methods. Many of them actually consider the adoption of technology as a risk. What that leads to, of course, is less durability, slower construction. The construction is not as eco-friendly or doesn't have the green credits. You cannot reduce carbon dioxide footprints. So all these problems come in. Oftentimes, we've seen in practice, especially from the side of materials, that people want state-of-the-art systems. Like they want the best and the best of modern technology, but with a 20-year work history. So that is simply not possible, because the more you innovate, the newer the material is, and at some point in time, these materials need to permeate into the mainstream construction. So this is what is also hampering the entry of startup culture in construction. Today we talk about startup only in terms of software engineering, but why not startups in construction? So lack of application of engineering principles, like that again is one problem. Rely on hearsay or blind adoption of technology. really serious problems that the construction industry has to consult with. And because of that, there has been, I would say, minimal visible improvements in construction over a long-term period of time. So I mean, construction in most, like even the rural areas, it's pretty much the same like what it did about 20 years ago. So when we started talking or discussing about this thing, so we said, what does the training model actually need? So we start off with a defined syllabus. Then we look, the second part is the most important part, is development of practical study material. So study material simply does not mean a printout of the slides that you're going to be talking about. A practical study material should be like an in-depth manual, maybe 200, 250 pages, depending on what kind of course you're doing. But it should give a student or it should give a trainee complete insight into what kind of training or what kind of professional development he's looking at. Then, of course, since we are in construction, online has its limitations. So we do need classroom and practical sessions, classroom as well as industry interactions and practicals. Because without the last two parts, it is like the training or training is incomplete. We are a physical industry. Construction is a physical industry. We need to see everything. We need to see, touch, and see how it works in practice. And without that, any training remains incomplete. So, like I said, the course materials would take a look at the syllabus. So basically, your syllabus can go across any of the topics that we saw, modern construction topics that we saw early on. And the study materials is something that a lot of development actually goes through, development work. So, for example, it has to be a combination of presentation notes, your custom detailed manual, then also, of course, other suggested reading and online resources. So you have to pretty much cover all bases when it comes to the study materials itself. In the classroom, we can cover, of course, things like theory, principles, methods, and experiences, like case studies or things like that. But along with that, the key part is the industry interaction and the practicals. This has to be done on site or in the laboratory. So in the laboratory or application labs is one place where you can demonstrate a lot of the materials. On site is where we see the actual application. But also industry interaction is important because it lets the seniors, discuss and narrate their experiences with regards to materials or design or the application part of it. So of course, the formats has to be a combination of online and on-site. So online can be done for all the classroom sessions, but on-site, I would say, becomes a must for the course. So who can attend or who benefits from this kind of a modern training methodology? I would think that this is equally applicable to academia and professionals. Like based on our experience, what we think about this kind of a course is that it can supplement engineering courses in the college, for example, civil engineering courses. So it just becomes another coursework for the students to follow. It's an excellent thing for short-term training programs. Like I think that's a TechWhip or TEQUIP initiative by AICTE. So it really helps training program for educators who can in turn they can improve education levels for their students. For postgraduate training or for finishing school, for example, whenever a graduate comes out of engineering, out of an engineering college, then we are not sure whether he's, they're normally a little bit rough around the edges. So this kind of a training course can lead them to a specific line. For example, if somebody does a course on waterproofing, can follow that as a career path, and the finishing school allows him to develop skills which are very suitable for that particular line, for example. Of course, we can also work with internship support. So as far as professional goes, of course, it gives them exposure to modern materials, and we have already done and taken care of these kind of courses for specifiers, for supervisors, and even for the skilled laborers, for example. But we are also working at the other level with unskilled labor. So we kind of work with them to get special regional courses, which are much more in their language, used to the materials, done with the materials that they are used to, and they're much more practical. So it has to be kind of tailor-made to the kind of application that we're going to see. But the base or the aim of this entire agenda and exercise is basically training as well as certification. It's not only that, okay, you come, you attend a series and you go away and, people don't know what to do with it. So basically we need to get into the certification of training. So it also really helps in the skill upgradation or in continuing education, because once you have the certificate means you need an evaluation. And once you have an evaluation means you have really understood the topic. It's kind of going through college all over again. So as an idea for execution, for example, we have already tried this with the IITD assess model. Like we've developed a lot of these courses and we have kind of delivered a lot of this kind of courses. Of course, modules of it, not the whole ones. But along with like those are the manuals that I actually saw. So they're very healthy, like about 250 260 page manuals. Along with that, we have developed facilities, for example, whereby both the classroom training, the laboratories, as well as the application labs are there. So people can both take a look at the theory part of it, see how it's applied, and then apply it themselves. Of course, we also follow other like say in practice things or online modules. But we really prefer to work with the people. This, for example, is one of the trainings which we had, whereby people are actually testing out all the different products, like how they look in a mixture, how it is to be, say, for example, injection resins, how they're to be injected, how do you mix a waterproofing system, how do you apply it, and so on. And we take it up onto an international level as well. So with that, we can see like with our international industry partners, so people can get a first-hand knowledge about how the machinery works, how the material works, and how we have to do it both together. We also do it on site for specific companies. This, for example, is with a known cement company in Mumbai. So we did a training course on admixtures for them. So in conclusion, like the training or the training methodology, so what it has to look at is the development of sustainable programs, and these programs have to be accredited through a recognized institution. So what that leads to, the next step is that you're looking at CPD programs, which means continuing professional development programs. And so that is the kind of model it has to follow in the long run. But to do that also, we need a lot of other things. A lot of work goes into making one course, because you need the proper manuals, you need space for practical training, you need facilities for that one, lab training, lab testing. So you need detailed or high quality laboratories. Along with that, we have also done, and we need to take a look at professional interactions and site visits and something like that, and that has to be a mandatory part or a compulsory part of the course. Of course, a lot of these things can be tailor-made based on the level of has to be tailor-made based on the level of the people attending it. And last but not least, the certification and registry of it is a need. Like without the certification part of it, all the training, I would say, really doesn't do much, because once somebody knows that they're going to be certified for it and the certification has a value, that is where the training and the skill development or the continuing professional development will see value on its own. So with that, I would say with this model, I would say thank you very much.
Let me start with congratulating to Construction Industry Development Council CIDC team for organizing online international conference and India Construction Week 2020. I also extend my gratitude to Mr. P.R. Swaroop and Mr. Raju Jain to include me in steering committee of skilling and providing me opportunity to speak my mind. Friends, we all know when it comes to economic empowerment strategies in India, skilling is one of the most significant aspects to consider. The proportion of skilled workforce in India is very low. It is 4.64% compared to China, United States, United Kingdom, Germany, and few other developed countries. It is estimated that by 2022, there will be a requirement of 104 million skilled workforce in India. Currently, we produce 5.5 million skilled workforce yearly, while we target 8.1 million people. Currently, when the entire globe is grappling with pandemic COVID-19, it has changed the entire state of skilling affairs in India. After health advisory by Government of India and other state in early March 2020, most of skill institutions and centers had to shut down. Because of lockdown in the last week of March 2020, many industries, organized and unorganized sectors were shut, which resulted in massive reverse migration towards small towns. It has created unemployment as well as a skilled workforce imbalance. As when industries started restoration of operation, they had a workforce crisis too. While reverse migrant had nothing to earn or suitable employment at their native places, the situation forced the skilling organization to think afresh and evolve new skilling ecosystem post-pandemic through integrating digital and e-learning environment in their conventional approach. We also witnessed change in industrial working patterns as many started exploring or invented technological solutions to overcome from this crisis. This has brought to light a two-pronged challenge to skilling organization. One, developing digital or e-learning platforms to implement training, and second, customization or alignment of skilling course modules and content with new workforce work pattern demands. And I must say that most of skilling organization, including NSDC, done a good work in this direction. On one side, organizations have developed learning management system based digital e-learning training models. On the other side, for people who could not access digital e-learning or human connect, have developed a blended training models which are mix of digital and physical training with a strategy to ensure health safety. In terms of the courses and content, skilling organization have converted its modules in digital contents which are more attractive and easy to learn. Also, new contents are customized and aligned with the new demands that come up in the industries post-pandemic. In my opinion, the new skilling ecosystem which has emerged out of COVID-19 situation is going to be a long-term skilling approach, which is going to increase its community outreach because of the technological interventions and will be better synchronized with the industry demand. It will also improve the annual skilling targets which we lack every year. My submission to all construction skilling organization to leverage out of this situation, and they can use this technological interventions based training models and the blended training models to scale their trainings and also create aspiration around it. With this submission, I thank to all my co-panelists and chairman of steering committee of skilling, Dr. Mundra. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, and joining in. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Dipender Virk. I am the product manager for tool services for Hilti India Private Limited. Firstly, I'd like to start by thanking CIDC for organizing the Indian Construction Week with a clear focus on reviving construction industry in post-COVID world. Now, I firmly agree that this is an absolute need of the hour. There has never been such a productivity as it is required today. Again, it's an absolute pleasure to be able to present our skilling initiative that we've been able to deliver to the construction industry in India. Earlier, as part of our CSR activity, our corporate social responsibility, we partnered with CIDC and delivered some of our tools which are today used in the various training programs that are run by CIDC to upskill our construction workforce in India. But today, I'm here to talk to you about another skilling initiative that we've just started. So before I jump into our skilling initiative about our health trainings, I'd like to introduce Hilti to you. And now, who is Hilti? Hilti as an organization was founded in 1941. It was founded in Liechtenstein. We have close to 25,000 employees all across the globe. We are active in more than 120 countries, and we consider ourselves a partner of the professional construction industry. What really distinguishes us? Now, there are three major things here. First is, of course, our strength, which is innovation. 6% of our sales are invested in research and development. We are embedded towards delivering the most productive solutions to the construction industry. And that is why we are able to come out with 60 innovative products annually. Secondly, our passion, our customers. Hilti is a direct sales company. And that means that we have close to 230,000 customer contacts daily. Our success, the third major factor, is our employees. We have 446 sales representatives all across India. No matter where you are in India, there's always somebody there from Hilti. And not just that, we've been rated as one of the best places to work in India. So, starting off, health and safety service, our initiative. Why do we do it today? Accidents on construction sites do not just happen, right? They are caused through different factors. But I can tell you that as a matter of fact, 2/3 of all these accidents happen because of human behavior. Why? It's simple, because the construction sector employs a high percentage of unskilled or untrained labor. Risks can easily be misjudged or simply ignored. It is of great importance that the workers are properly and effectively trained. With all this in mind, we place a strong focus on supporting the prevention of accidents on job sites. Accidents have emotional as well as economic consequences. We want everyone to feel safe and work safely on the job site as much as our customers do. Ultimately, a good work environment geared towards improved workers' health and safety results in higher productivity and peace of mind for all stakeholders. Today, health and safety is becoming a key area of concern for our customers. Our customers' concern is also our concern. We support construction companies in creating positive changes in healthy and safe behavior. Since 2014, we have trained tens of thousands of workers worldwide exclusively on health and safety. So what do we do today is we bring our basic health and safety training service to India. So I hope you liked our skilling initiative, right? It's a much needed demand of our construction industry. So if you feel tomorrow that this is something that you're looking out for, feel free to get in touch. There's a toll-free number there, and you see an email ID there as well. Looking forward to bring about this initiative to your organization as well. This is Dipinder signing off. Thank you so much, and thanks for listening to me.
Namaskar, my name is Pramod Kumar Mishra. working as GM Training and Development in GR Infra Projects Limited, Gurugram, Haryana, India. Friends, I am going to present a paper on skill development programs of GR Infra Projects Limited. As we know that construction industry in India is the ninth largest market in the world, accounting for approx 3.3% of global market share and is growing very fast. It is also the second largest employment generator after agriculture. In this industry, skill, knowledge and are the driving force of economic growth and social development. The economy becomes more productive, innovative and competitive through of development of skilled human capital. There is always difference between required and present knowledge and performance, and this gap is explained by inadequacy of skill. Skill development therefore means that all the efforts that allow the individual to learn to do something better than before or to do something new that the person has not done before and which results in concrete change in their livelihood. Scarcity of technical skill of their workforce is one of the major problems faced by the construction industry in India and the world over, and the tremendous shortage can be expected in the coming years. Inadequate or inappropriate skills affect the planning, quality and productivity, which results in time and cost overrun and underutilization of plant and machinery at the project site, and this generally results lower profitability. Mostly corporates conduct training programs as per their need, and in turns employees are trained followed by evaluation. But this is not sufficient until unless they undergo the process of development. No individual can be termed as a trained person unless he or she undergoes the development process. Existing institutional framework are there, which I'm going to present before you. That is for vocational education, training and skill formation in various construction trade, as well as which is inadequate. The country has a network of polytechnics and industrial training institutes for imparting courses in engineering and technical and non-engineering trades. NSDC, which we call as National Skill Development Council, a PPP body under the Ministry of Finance, has a target of skilling or training 500 million skilled workers by 2022 through sector skills councils. There are few industries and associations who have also taken this responsibility, but all of them are focusing on training, not on the development process. Now, GR Infra Projects, GRIL, has a approach towards the development process, the program which I'm going to present before you. So GR Infra Projects is one of the fastest growing infrastructure companies in India. The company mission is to develop its human resource, especially workers, operators, supervisors and other employees, to enhance their personal effectiveness. The employees' personal effectiveness can be enhanced if the knowledge is increased, skill is developed and change brought in the mindset that we call an attitude. Mr. Vinod Agarwal, the managing director of the organization, is a firm believer in the development process of employees. He believes that each employee, whether he or she is manager, engineer, officer, assistant, supervisor, foreman or worker, they all must undergo the development programs so that they can do proper planning, produce quality work and ensure safety. Special attention has been given to the workers, operators and supervisory programs. To achieve the mission and objective of development successfully, a unique and innovative model has been introduced for the program of supervisor, foreman as well as workers. This innovative approach has been thought of because it is different from the traditional approach where the weightage is given more to theory rather than the practical. Under this innovative approach, GRIL has started two unique programs, one for supervisors and foremen and second for the operators and workers. Let me brief you about the supervisory development programs in GRIL. It has been designed for the highway and structure supervisor and foreman who never got an opportunity to develop themselves in the past. This is basically a 20-day program in which 30% has been taught as theoretical subject and 70% is taught through hands-on experience, that is a practical. The main focus is given on hands-on experience. The project sites are training centers where necessary arrangements for the training have been made. The trainers are all in-house staff as they have the knowledge in their own domain. The program is run through a planned and systematic way, starting at 9 a.m. in the morning and continues till 5:30 p.m. in the evening. Each day the participants are given some assignments which they complete and submit the same to the trainer next day. During the 20 days program, they are taught civil related subjects such as well as behavioral skills. At the end of the program, they undergo a written test to assess their evaluation and the knowledge level. This innovative approach has given a thrust to the project site, and the trained supervisors are giving the desired result by applying the learning and skill in the workplace. The till date, more than 60 supervisors and foremen have been trained and process is still going on. The second program, innovative and unique model which is going on, is for the operators, drivers and workers. The construction sites aim to improve the productivity and quality of work and safety, which can only be ensured if a site worker and operators are skilled, and skill can be improved only through proper training and systematic development. In India, approximately 80% construction workers and drivers, operators are unskilled, illiterate, semi-literate, and they get trained in their respective trades. Most of the training in the job commencing at very young age as a helper to a staff, that is a master trainer, and this training lasts roughly about 2 to 5 years on ground. The trainee inherits all good and bad practices adopted by the trainer without reasoning. But now the modern construction technologies and methods are a deviation from the past. Even the most experienced traditional construction operators unable to fit in the new scenario are facing problem at site, are unable to deliver the desired productivity. Therefore, to make operators, drivers, workers aware about the new methods and techniques and different trends, GRIL decided to start the training and development programs for the operators, drivers and workers. Although the target is to achieve 100% skilled drivers and operators, even if 70 and 80% drivers, operators, workers are trained, a tremendous change can be seen at the project site. Apart from these two unique models, there are other programs are also being conducted and they are being regularly being run. Those are like contract management development program for the managers and engineers, construction quality programs for the civil engineers and lab technician, health safety environment program for managers, engineers, supervisor, foremen, operators and workers, and most important is the behavioral skill program, that is a soft skill program on communication skill, motivation, leadership, stress management for all levels of employee. So finally, to conclude here, in my paper, that many organizations, individual, other perception for training and development is that it is a cost. However, they forget everything has a cost and return also. So training is an investment and return are known through the increase in knowledge, development, skills and change in the attitude. The innovative program we started in GRIL is an investment, and the first positive result has experienced in the change of attitude. A positive attitude itself is a success, and therefore the programs going in GRIL are yielding positive results as of date and will keep on this trend in future also. Thank you very much.
ये है हापुड़ स्थित धौलाना में CIDC यानी कंस्ट्रक्शन इंडस्ट्री डेवलपमेंट काउंसिल का कौशल विकास केंद्र। और अपनी तकदीर बदलने के लिए कड़ी धूप में मशक्कत करते ये बच्चे इन सब का सपना ये है हापुड़ स्थित धौलाना में CIDC यानी कंस्ट्रक्शन इंडस्ट्री डेवलपमेंट काउंसिल का कौशल विकास केंद्र। और अपनी तकदीर बदलने के लिए कड़ी धूप में मशक्कत करते ये बच्चे, इन सब का सपना है एक बेहतर जिंदगी। और इनके इस सपने को उड़ान दी है एयरपोर्ट अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया यानी AAI ने।
CSR की एक्टिविटीज
ये है हापुड़ स्थित धौलाना में CIDC यानी कंस्ट्रक्शन इंडस्ट्री डेवलपमेंट काउंसिल का कौशल विकास केंद्र। और अपनी तकदीर बदलने के लिए कड़ी धूप में मशक्कत करते ये बच्चे, इन सब का सपना है एक बेहतर जिंदगी। और इनके इस सपने को उड़ान दी है एयरपोर्ट अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया यानी AAI ने।
CSR की एक्टिविटीज़ हैं पूरे देश में, वो करने के लिए बहुत ही प्रतिबद्ध हैं, अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं। एक चीज़ आप ये देखें कि पिछले 2 साल में तकरीबन 6000 बेरोज़गार बच्चों के लिए उन्होंने हमको जिम्मेदारी दी अलग अलग जगह पर।
AAI को साथ मिला CIDC यानी कंस्ट्रक्शन इंडस्ट्री डेवलपमेंट काउंसिल का। CIDC को स्किल डेवलपमेंट में लंबा अनुभव है।
CIDC के ऑल ओवर इंडिया में बहुत से सेंटर्स हैं और बहुत कई सेंटर्स में मैं खुद विजिट किया है।
इसने अब तक पूरे देश में तकरीबन 5 लाख लोगों को उनका हुनर बढ़ाने और संवारने में मदद की है। AAI ने पहली बार 2015-16 में CIDC को 1000 बच्चों के कौशल विकास की जिम्मेवारी दी। पहले बैच के तकरीबन सारे बच्चों को अलग अलग कंपनियों में नौकरी मिली। तो 2016-17 में 2000 बच्चों को प्रशिक्षित करने का काम दिया। इनका भी प्रशिक्षण पूरा हो गया और ये बच्चे अलग अलग कंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनियों में काम कर रहे हैं। कुछ लोग स्वरोजगार भी कर रहे हैं। AAI ने चालू वर्ष में भी 2000 बच्चों को प्रशिक्षित करने की जिम्मेवारी CIDC को दी है। इन्हें धौलाना के अलावा CIDC के फरीदाबाद, गोरखपुर, रांची, डाल्टेनगंज, सिधौली, रमसापुर और चापागुड़ी स्थित कौशल विकास केंद्रों पर भी प्रशिक्षण दिया जा रहा है।
सैलरी स्ट्रक्चर अगेन इट डिपेंड्स कि जो नियोक्ता कंपनी है उनके पास किस तरीके का उनका अपना एक सिस्टम है, बट एवरेज मैं कह सकता हूं कि स्टार्टिंग जो होती है करीब 10,000 रुपये से स्टार्ट होती है और अभी तक हमने देखा है कि करीब 17-18 हज़ार रुपये तक की स्टार्टिंग भी बच्चों को मिली।
PF और ESI की सुविधा अलग से। 2-3 सालों में इनमें अच्छी खासी बढ़ोतरी हो जाती है। इस तरह AAI हजारों परिवारों के सपनों को साकार करने में उनकी मदद कर रहा है।
Up above the world so high and down on the grounds, the advancements that you see in India's aviation is the success saga of the excellence shown by Airports Authority of India. AAI is constructing, operating and maintaining world-class airport. Along with that, AAI has a side that's down to earth and close to the people. One that's clearly visible in its CSR programs and activities. Through its CSR activities, AAI has keenly focused on skill development, to generate livelihood opportunities in backward and remote areas. AAI has tied up with Construction Industry Development Council for skill development of unemployed youth and people belonging to economically weaker sections.
In construction industry, there is a acute shortage of skilled manpower. At the same time, there is a unemployed youth. So if we provide them a skill, it will be a win-win situation for both.
Through this skill development training, the student get theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge in construction-related subjects like land survey, electrical wireman, general work supervisor, site accountant and storekeeper, etc.
Actually, here we are providing trainings to the unskilled youth of India who are unemployed. We distribute pamphlets at the different locations of UP, Bihar, West Bengal to get the unskilled manpower. Then we can make them skilled. So we are providing them 3 months training.
More than 5,000 students have been trained with this skill development training program since 2015.
जब मैं यहाँ पे आया था तो इस सब्जेक्ट से रिलेटेड मेरे पास कुछ ज़्यादा नॉलेज नहीं थी, लेकिन यहाँ आने के बाद इस फील्ड में मुझे काफ़ी नॉलेज मिली है।
हमारे 2 महीने हो गए ट्रेनिंग के और 1 महीना बाकी रहा, मतलब काफ़ी कुछ सीख लिया 2 महीने के अंदर।
यहाँ से मतलब सीख के जाएंगे तो हम दुकान खोल सकते हैं अपने घर पे जाके, मतलब हम अपना कोई भी बिजनेस फैला सकते हैं।
ये बहुत अच्छी अपॉर्चुनिटी दे रहा है एयरपोर्ट और CIDC, जिससे कि बच्चे अपना आगे का फ्यूचर बना सकें।
With this skill development training, AAI has generated employment for many of underprivileged and uneducated youth. And on the other side, AAI and other PSUs got a skilled worker for their construction sites.
ट्रेनिंग से हमको मतलब बहुत लाभ हुआ है। मैं आज यहाँ पे जॉब पे हूँ और मेरा काम यहाँ पे जो है प्लांट को चलाने का है। मतलब जो बाहर से ऑर्डर आता है कंक्रीट का, मैं डिस्पैच स्लिप से उसे यहाँ से बना के मतलब माल को बनवा के और वहाँ पे साइट पे भेजना होता है हमको।
पहले मुझे कंप्यूटर की बिल्कुल भी नॉलेज नहीं थी, फिर धीरे धीरे मैं 3 महीने में इतना सीख गई कि वो लोग मेरा कॉन्फिडेंस देख के मुझे यहाँ पे एम्प्लॉय रख लिए।
Our motto by doing all CSR activity in Airports Authority of India is to make the difference and feel the difference.
Airports Authority of India has come to lend a new and distinct prominence to India on global aviation map. And we share this pride with every Indian. And we shall continue to serve them and enrich lives of Indians everywhere.
सेंटर में फूड रिजर्वेशन का ट्रेनिंग ले रही हूँ। यहाँ पे हम प्रैक्टिकल कर रही हूँ। यहाँ पे हमें अचार बनाना, जाम बनाना, जेली बनाना आदि सिखाया गया है और उसके साथ यहाँ पे मार्केटिंग और पैकेजिंग की भी सिखाया गया है। हम जॉब कर सकते हैं या जॉब नहीं भी करें तो उसके द्वारा हम अपना बिजनेस शुरू कर सकते हैं। इसीलिए मैं CIDC और AAI को धन्यवाद देना चाहती हूँ। वो हमें ये सिखाया कि हमें अपने पैरों पर खुद खड़ा होना सिखाया। इसलिए थैंक यू।
मैं CIDC में ट्रेनिंग करने के लिए आया हूँ, जो कि बिनेश्वर ब्रह्मो इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज में कराया जा रहा है, जो कि कोरंजर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में है, असम में। मैं जो ट्रेड किया हुआ हूँ वो है जनरल वर्क सुपरवाइजर का।
ऑटो लेवल एक डिवाइस होता है